Lately, I keep picturing a very specific kind of feature. Not the flashy robots walking around like humans feature. More like a quiet mechanical revolution that happens almost off camera. Robots that wield other robots. Robots that repair robots. Machines that construct and operate energy sources. Autonomous systems that farm the land, harvest, package, and move goods without needing a human in the loop every step of the way. Not a conscious AI ruling anything, just an ecosystem of automation that's capable enough to keep itself running. And when you imagine that ecosystem working smoothly, energy, food, manufacturing, logistics, something uncomfortable appears immediately. Humans slowly step out of the economic machine as workers.
In the future, humans won't have to work. Robots will do the work instead.
And remain in it mostly as consumers.
It's good to see the old ways are still appreciated.
Those systems become efficient enough, the cost of producing basic things could drop so far that it starts to feel weird to attach price tags the way we do now. It's like we are approaching a world where the marginal cost of many essentials keep shrinking. This is the part that almost nobody says directly. It gets hinted at, it gets touched and then quickly covered up with jokes or vague optimism. Sometimes it shows up as people will work voluntarily, sometimes as citizen salary or universal basic income, sometimes as we'll have more time for creativity. But the real question is heavier than those slogans. If we are walking toward a world where basic life can be supported by self-running systems, what happens to ownership? What happens to the power? What happens to the idea that you earn your right to access by being useful? Because, let's be honest, giving up property or giving up ability to control access is not easy for power structures. It is not easy for ordinary people either. We are not just talking about economics, we are talking about identity. A person who spent their whole life trying to buy a home doesn't just transition emotionally into a world where housing is guaranteed. A system built on scarcity doesn't calmly become a system built on plenty, even if the technology makes it possible. That's why, when people hear this kind of feature, they get stuck at the most understandable question in the world. Okay, who is going to give me a free house? Who is going to give me a free car? Why would anyone do that? And it is not because people are dumb. It is because we haven't seen true abundance. We've seen growth, yes. We've seen convenience. We've seen speed. But abundance? Real abundance that changed the rules. Most of us have never lived inside it. So our brain uses the only model it knows. Scarcity, prices, competition, ownership, nothing is free. And our culture reinforces that. Every story we've been told says this is a fantasy, something extremely far away, maybe centuries away, something you can daydream about but not plan for. And even if you do sense it might be closer than we think, another thought follows right after. Early actually change anything about my life. Because practically most people still wake up, pay bills, work, get tired, repeat. Early awareness doesn't look like it pays rent, so the feature stays abstract. You can imagine it, but you can't feel it. That's why I want to stop obsessing over the after and focus on the part we are actually living in, the transition. Because the transition is where everything gets decided. The after is just the outcome of choices made during the overlap period. when the old economy is still running, but the new capabilities are quietly undermining it. And this transition has a weird psychological effect. It arrives as small changes that don't look like a revolution until you step back.
What in the blazes? He's pulling it all by himself. I don't believe my eyes.
A workplace that needed 10 people now needs 3. A job becomes AI assisted, and suddenly one person can do what a small team used to do. A company doesn't lay people off loudly, it just stops hiring. Entry level paths shrink. Whole categories of work get thinner around the edges. And in parallel, you see other side. The world becomes more productive, more automated, more optimized.
Can I
More
get one
stuff
tablet,
moves
please?
with less friction. So you end up with this strange contradiction. The system gets better at producing, while the average person still feels like life is expensive, uncertain, and tiring. That contradiction is the warning sign. It is the sign that the old distribution logic doesn't match the new production reality. And that brings me back to the simplest version of the question without drama. If machines can cover more and more of basic production, how does society restructure access without collapsing into chaos? Because if you keep the old rule, you only get access through wages. While automation reduces the need for wages, you create a pressure cooker. And that pressure cooker doesn't wait politely. It turns into politics. It turns into conflict. It turns into instability. This is why, when people talk about citizen salary or basic services, it's not just a cute idea. It's an attempt to design a bridge, a way to avoid a feature where production is high but access is shaky. Still, the reason this topic feels so surreal is because of how deeply scarcity is wired into us. And honestly, pop culture sometimes captures that wiring better than serious discussions.
Do you think these seats are for display only?
I don't know, but my feet are killing me.
That cat has the right idea.
There is a scene in Star Trek I always think about. They find a ship with people from around the 2000s, wealthy people who have been sleeping for centuries. They wake up in a totally different world, and they do what you would expect a rich person from our era to do. They panic. Because their identity is built on assets, on ownership, on the idea that money is protection. They basically ask, what do we do now? Who takes care of us? Our property is gone. And the captain's answer is calm, almost casual. There's enough. There's food. There's space. People aren't left behind like that anymore. That scene hits because it shows how foreign security feels to a scarcity trained mind. And then there's animatrix. This idea of a human golden age, a prosperity era where comfort is high and the hard work is invisible. The world runs smoothly, the systems just function. It's seductive and it's also unsettling because it forces the question, are we actually ready for a world where basic life is mechanically handled? Not technologically, psychologically, politically, culturally.
Sir, the weather is beautiful. May I suggest a short walk?
Maybe tomorrow, Alfred.
Because even if you remove the survival pressure, you don't automatically get a wise society. You get a society full of humans, and humans bring their habits with them. Some people might flourish when free. They might study, build, create, care for others. They might finally have time to be fully human. Others might drift, or numb out, or become addicted to stimulation, or fall into a kind of soft emptiness, and the society can become materially comfortable while emotionally fragile. So the future isn't just about we have enough. It's about what we become when enough is normal. Now, when I say the plan, I don't mean a single global secret plan like a movie. I mean something simpler and more real. What kind of policies, incentives, and cultural shifts could make this transition less painful and less chaotic? Because right now, the reason this revolution is hard to see is that it is not arriving as a gift. It's arriving as efficiency. Efficiency is quiet. It doesn't announce itself as a new era. It just reduces labor, reduces costs, increases speed, and then one day you realize the social contract is outdated. And here's another reason people resist believing it: property. Even if technology makes abundance possible, property is still how power is organized today. And giving up property isn't only hard for powerful people, it's hard for ordinary people because property is the only safety net many people have ever trusted. So the transition becomes a fight between two realities. The physical reality is moving toward cheaper energy, cheaper manufacturing, cheaper logistics, cheaper coordination. The social reality is still organized around scarcity, ownership, and wage-based access. Those realities can't stay misaligned forever. So what could happen as goods and energy keep getting cheaper?
Hold on 1 second, just swapping phones. Okay, I'm back. Yes, I agree. The Q3 projections look solid.
One possibility is that basic necessities start to feel less like products and more like utilities, like something society just maintains. You don't earn access to air. You don't earn access to basic sanitation in a functional society. It's just there because civilization collapses without it. In that scenario, housing and mobility might gradually shift from luxury objects into infrastructure, standardized, modular, abundant enough that the real scarcity becomes location and preferences, not survival. Another possibility is that we don't fully free anything, but prices drop so close to zero for many basics that the economic meaning changes anyway. Things become cheap enough to be almost background. The way information became cheap, the way communication became cheap, not free in theory, but practically it stopped being a major barrier. And that could be the weird middle stage we are headed into. Not utopia, not dystopia, just a world where a lot of necessities become strangely inexpensive, while society scrambles to update its institutions. But the most important question remains the same. Do we build a bridge on purpose, or do we stumble across it in crisis? Because if we stumble, the transition could be ugly. Jobs disappear unevenly. People blame each other. Politics becomes more extreme. The promise of abundance gets swallowed by fear and resentment. If we build the bridge, the transition could be smoother. Work could gradually become more optional, not because people become lazy, but because survival no longer needs to be enforced through panic. And when work becomes optional, work changes meaning. It becomes contribution, craft, service, exploration, care. Building something because it matters, not because you'll be punished if you don't. If humans stop spending most of their lives maintaining basic survival, human attention lifts and looks up at the sky. The energy that goes into committing, grinding, worrying, recovering can go into discovery. Science that takes decades. Art that isn't rushed. Community projects. Deep learning. Looking outward, not just at the next bill, but at the ocean, the sky, the universe. That's the part that makes this more than an economic discussion. It is a civilization discussion. And it also makes the question, is it useful to realize this early, suddenly more practical than it seems? Because early awareness isn't about predicting the exact year this happens. It's about noticing which direction the world is bending and shaping personal and political choices accordingly. It's about asking right now, if work becomes less central, what should education focus on? If abundance becomes possible, what should rights mean? If automation replaces routine labor, what should society reward? If basic life becomes guaranteed, what becomes the new source of meaning? And maybe the most grounded version of the plan is this. Treat the transition like a real historical shift, not a distant fantasy. Because the technology doesn't need to be perfect to change society. It only needs to be good enough to break the old assumptions, and it feels like we're getting close to good enough. Not tomorrow, not like a switch, but close enough that pretending it's a science fiction might be the most unrealistic thing we do. So the real question isn't will this happen? The real question is what kind of bridge we build while it's happening. Because if the future is approaching a world where a self-running mechanical ecosystem covers basic needs, then the biggest risk isn't the machines. The biggest risk is clinging to old rules while the world changes underneath them. And the biggest opportunity isn't free stuff. It is the possibility that humans finally get time back, time to think, to create, to care, to explore, and to look up.